My name is Sarah, and I'm 28 years old. This is the story of how my sister-in-law destroyed what should have been the happiest day of my life, all because she couldn't accept that an adopted child could have a fairy tale ending. I've been with my fiancé Michael for 4 years. We met at a coffee shop in downtown Seattle where I was working as a freelance photographer, editing photos on my laptop between shoots. Michael, then 30, was a pediatric nurse at Seattle Children's Hospital, who stopped by every morning for his caffeine fix before his shift. What started as casual small talk over lattes grew into long conversations, then dinner dates, and eventually, a deep, committed relationship built on shared values of compassion, family, and helping others. Michael proposed last Christmas in the most perfect way imaginable. He had arranged for us to volunteer together at the children's hospital where he worked, helping organize a holiday party for the young patients. As we were cleaning up afterwards, surrounded by glitter and leftover cake, he got down on one knee, right there in the pediatric ward. "You've shown me what it means to love unconditionally," he said, tears in his eyes. "Will you marry me?" The ring was a simple but elegant solitaire that belonged to his late grandmother, and it fit perfectly. The engagement period was mostly blissful. We spent months planning our September wedding, choosing a beautiful outdoor venue in the mountains, selecting flowers, tasting cakes, and dreaming about our future together. Michael's family seemed genuinely happy for us, especially his parents, Robert and Linda, who welcomed me with open arms from the very beginning. His father is a retired teacher, and his mother works part-time at the local library. They're warm, down-to-earth people who raise their children to value character over status. The only complication in our wedding planning came from Michael's older sister, Jessica. At 32, Jessica is a successful corporate lawyer, married to David, also an attorney. They live in an upscale neighborhood with their 8-year-old son, Tyler, and 6-year-old daughter, Emma. From the outside, Jessica appears to have everything together: the perfect career, the perfect house, the perfect family. But beneath that polished exterior lies a controlling personality and some very outdated ideas about family, adoption, and social status. I was adopted as an infant by my parents, Karen and Tom Mitchell. They couldn't have biological children and chose to build their family through adoption. I've never hidden this fact, never been ashamed of it, and my adoptive parents have always been completely open about my background. They told me from a young age that I was chosen, wanted, and deeply loved. Growing up, I never felt different or less than because of being adopted. My parents made sure of that. However, Jessica had made several comments over the years that suggested she viewed adoption differently. During family dinners, she would make subtle remarks about bloodlines and genetic traits when discussing Tyler and Emma's achievements. She would frequently mention how Tyler had David's intelligence and Emma had her artistic abilities, as if genetics were the only explanation for a child's talents or personality. When I would share stories about my own childhood accomplishments, she would nod politely but never engage with the same enthusiasm she showed when discussing her biological children or Michael's childhood achievements. The first major red flag came during our engagement party 6 months ago. Jessica had offered to give a speech, and I was touched by the gesture. But as she stood up with her champagne glass, her words took an unexpected turn. "We're so happy that Michael has found someone to settle down with," she began sweetly. "And while Sarah may not be what we initially expected for our family, we've learned to accept that love comes in many forms." The phrase, "learn to accept," stung, but I tried to brush it off as awkward phrasing rather than intentional slight. Later that evening, I overheard Jessica talking to her husband David in the kitchen. "I still think Michael could have done better," she was saying. "Someone with a proper family background. We don't even know where she really comes from." David murmured something I couldn't hear, and Jessica responded, "Well, genetics matter, David. What if they have children? Who knows what kind of traits she might pass on?" I felt sick to my stomach, but decided not to confront her, not wanting to create drama at our celebration. Michael and I had talked about starting a family, and we both wanted children. We had agreed that we would be open to both biological children and adoption, seeing both as equally valid paths to parenthood. When I mentioned Jessica's comment to Michael later, he was upset and assured me that her opinions didn't represent the family's views. "Jessica can be judgmental sometimes," he said, "but she'll come around. She just needs time to get to know you better. As our wedding date approached, the planning intensified. I had found my dream dress at a small boutique 6 months earlier, a stunning ivory A-line gown with delicate lace sleeves and a flowing train. It wasn't the most expensive dress in the store, but it was perfect for me and for our outdoor mountain wedding. The dress required several alterations, and I had been going to fittings every few weeks to ensure everything would be perfect. Jessica had insisted on being involved in the wedding planning, positioning herself as the helpful sister-in-law who wanted everything to be perfect for her brother's special day. She offered to coordinate with vendors, handle some of the decorations, and even volunteered to pick up my dress from the boutique the day before the wedding, since I would be busy with the rehearsal and family arriving from out of town. "I want to help make this day perfect for you both," she said, with what seemed like genuine sincerity. "Let me handle the dress pickup. It's one less thing for you to worry about." I was grateful for the help, especially since the boutique was closer to Jessica's office than to our apartment. Looking back, I realized this was the moment she began planning her sabotage. The week before the wedding was a whirlwind of activity. My parents arrived from Portland, along with my aunt and uncle and several close friends. Michael's extended family began arriving from various states, filling up local hotels and rental houses. The rehearsal dinner was held at a charming restaurant, overlooking the Sound, and everything seemed to be falling into place beautifully. That Thursday night, Jessica picked up my dress as planned. She texted me a photo of herself at the boutique holding the garment bag with a smiling emoji. "Got your beautiful dress. Safe and sound. See you tomorrow." I felt a wave of relief, knowing that one more item had been checked off my ever-growing list. The morning of my wedding, September 15th, dawned crisp and clear with autumn colors just beginning to appear on the mountainside. Our venue, a historic lodge surrounded by evergreen trees, looked like something from a fairy tale. The morning was spent in preparation, with my bridesmaids, my mother, and me getting ready in the bridal suite, while the men prepared in a separate cabin nearby. At 2:00 p.m., 3 hours before the ceremony, Jessica arrived at the bridal suite, carrying my dress bag. "Here's your gorgeous gown," she announced cheerfully, hanging it on the designated hook. "I've been so careful with it. I even kept it in my climate-controlled closet overnight." I was busy getting my makeup done and barely glanced at the bag, trusting that everything was fine. My maid of honor, Rachel, who had been my best friend since college, was helping coordinate the getting ready process. My mother was steaming, the bridesmaids' dresses, and the photographer was capturing candid moments of the preparation. An hour later, it was time to get into my dress. Rachel unzipped the garment bag while I finished my hair, and I heard her sharp intake of breath behind me. "Sarah," she said, her voice strange and tight, "come here, now." I turned around and saw Rachel holding my dress, her face pale. At first, I couldn't process what I was seeing. The ivory fabric was stained with what looked like red wine, dark purple splotches covering the bodice and flowing down the skirt. The delicate lace sleeves had been torn in several places, and there was a long rip down the back of the dress that looked deliberately made. My knees went weak, and I had to sit down on the edge of the bed. "What happened?" I whispered, unable to fully comprehend the destruction. My mother rushed over, took one look at the dress, and immediately began examining the damage more closely. "This wasn't an accident," she said grimly, pointing to the tears. "Look at these rips. They're too clean, too deliberate. And this staining pattern, it's like someone poured liquid directly onto specific areas." Rachel was already on her phone, calling the boutique to see if there were any other dresses available. But I knew it was hopeless. My dress had been custom fitted, and even if they had something in my size, there wasn't enough time for alterations. The ceremony was supposed to start in 2 hours, and guests were already beginning to arrive. I started crying, not just gentle tears, but the kind of sobbing that comes from deep heartbreak. This wasn't just about a dress, it was about someone deliberately sabotaging what was supposed to be the most special day of my life. The months of planning, the dreams, the carefully chosen details, all of it felt ruined in that moment. My mother immediately took charge, as mothers do in crisis situations. "We're going to figure this out," she said firmly. Rachel, call every bridal shop and formal wear store in the area. See what they have available for immediate pickup. I'll call Michael and let him know we have a situation, but I won't tell him the details yet. As the frantic calls began, Jessica knocked on the suite door. "How's everything going in there?" she called cheerfully. "Can I see the beautiful bride in her dress?" Rachel opened the door just wide enough to slip out, pulling. It closed behind her. I could hear her speaking in low, urgent tones with Jessica, but I couldn't make out the words over my own crying and my mother's phone calls. When Rachel came back in, her face was flushed with anger. "Jessica claims she has no idea how this happened," she reported. "She says the dress was perfect when she picked it up yesterday and that she kept it safe all night. She's suggesting maybe something happened during transport this morning." But even through my distress, I remembered the photo Jessica had sent me the day before. The garment bag in that picture had been pristine, zipped closed, showing no signs of damage. This destruction had happened sometime between yesterday afternoon and this morning, while the dress was in Jessica's possession. My phone buzzed with a text from Michael. "Mom says there's a dress emergency? What's going on? Can I help?" I couldn't bring myself to respond. How could I tell him that his sister had destroyed my wedding dress? What if he didn't believe me? What if this ruined not just our wedding day, but our relationship with his family? Meanwhile, the search for a replacement dress was proving futile. It was Saturday afternoon of a busy wedding weekend, and most bridal shops were either closed or had limited inventory. The few dresses that were available were either completely wrong for our outdoor mountain setting or would require significant alterations that couldn't be done in time. As I sat in my underwear and robe staring at my ruined dress, Jessica knocked. Again. This time she entered without waiting for permission, her expression a picture of concerned innocence. "Oh my goodness," she gasped, looking at the destroyed gown. "What happened? This is terrible." Her performance was almost convincing, but I caught something in her eyes, a flicker of satisfaction that she tried to hide. In that moment, I knew with absolute certainty that she had done this deliberately. "Jessica," I said quietly, my voice steadier than I felt. "Did you do this to my dress?" Her eyes widened in apparent shock. "Sarah, how can you even ask that? I would never do something so horrible. I'm as devastated as you are. Maybe something happened at the dry cleaner or during transport?" But my mother, who had finished her phone calls, stepped forward. "The dress didn't go to a dry cleaner, Jessica. It went straight from the final fitting to your care. And these stains and tears didn't happen during transport. Someone did this deliberately." Jessica's face flushed, but she maintained her innocent act. "Are you accusing me of sabotaging Sarah's wedding dress? That's insane. Why would I do something like that?" Before anyone could respond, my phone rang. It was Michael. "Sarah, what's happening? People are starting to arrive, and Mom says there's some kind of dress situation." I took a shaky breath. "Michael, my dress has been destroyed. It's covered in stains and torn beyond repair. We're trying to find a replacement, but..." "Destroyed? How? Where?" His voice was filled with confusion and concern. I looked directly at Jessica as I answered. "It happened while it was in Jessica's care. Someone deliberately ruined it." There was silence on the phone, then Michael's voice, tight with controlled emotion. "I'm coming over there. Now." As we waited for Michael to arrive, the room fell into tense silence. Jessica continued to protest her innocence, but her protests were becoming more defensive and less convincing. Rachel and my mother continued making calls, desperately searching for any solution. Then my mother had an idea. "What about my dress?" she suggested. "From my own wedding? I saved it all these years and we're about the same size. It's not your style, but it's a wedding dress." I felt a spark of hope, but then remembered that my parents lived 3 hours away in Portland. There wasn't time to retrieve it. But my mother was already on the phone with my Aunt Lisa, who lived locally. "Lisa, I need you to do me a huge favor. Drive to Portland right now and get my wedding dress from the cedar chest in my bedroom closet. Yes, right now. Sarah's dress has been ruined, and we need a backup plan." Michael arrived at the bridal suite looking frazzled and upset. He took one look at my destroyed dress and his face went through a series of emotions: shock, anger, and then something like recognition. "Tell me exactly what happened," he said, his voice carefully controlled. Rachel explained the timeline. Jessica picking up the dress, keeping it overnight, delivering it this morning, and our discovery of the damage. As she spoke, I watched Michael's expression grow darker. When she finished, he turned to his sister. "Jessica," he said quietly, "I need you to tell me the truth. Did you do this?" Jessica's composed mask began to crack. "Michael, I can't believe you're taking her side without even considering other possibilities. Your own sister. I would never—" "Cut the act," Michael interrupted, his voice sharp. "I know you, Jess. I know how you really feel about Sarah, about adoption, about this whole wedding. I've heard your comments. I've seen your behavior. Did you destroy Sarah's dress?" The room was completely silent except for the sound of my heart pounding. Jessica looked around at all of us. Michael, me, my mother, Rachel, all waiting for her answer. Finally, something in her expression shifted. The innocent mask fell away, replaced by cold defiance. "Fine," she said, lifting her chin. "Yes, I ruined the dress, and I'm not sorry." The admission hit the room like a physical blow. Michael stepped back as if his sister had slapped him. My mother gasped, and Rachel muttered something that sounded like profanity under her breath. "Why?" I whispered. "Why would you do that to me?" Jessica's answer came out in a rush of pent-up resentment and ugly prejudice. "Because you don't deserve a white dress and a fairy tale wedding. You're not really part of this family. You're just some random kid whose real parents didn't want her, and now you think you can waltz in and play house with my brother?" Michael looked like he'd been punched. "Jessica, what the hell is wrong with you?" But she wasn't finished. Years of hidden resentment came pouring out. "Do you know what people are going to think, Michael? That our family has lowered its standards. That we've accepted someone of unknown background, unknown genetics. What happens when you have children? What kinds of traits will they inherit from her mysterious bloodline?" The words were like poison in the air. I felt each one like a physical blow, but underneath the hurt was growing anger. How dare she suggest that my worth as a person, as a wife, as a future mother, was determined by the circumstances of my birth? "I spent my whole life building something respectable," Jessica continued, her voice rising. "A good career, a good marriage, good children with proper backgrounds, and then you bring home some foundling and expect us all to pretend she belongs. In our family photos." Michael's face had gone completely white. "Get out," he said quietly. "What?" "Get out of this room. Get off this property. You are not welcome at my wedding." Jessica laughed, a bitter sound. "Fine. Have your little ceremony with your little adopted wife. But don't expect our children to call her aunt. Don't expect me to pretend your future kids are really my nieces and nephews when they're carrying the genes of God knows what kind of people." With that, she grabbed her purse and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. The silence she left behind was deafening. Michael immediately came to me, pulling me into his arms as I dissolved into tears again. "Sarah, I am so sorry. I had no idea she was capable of something like this. I never would have let her near your dress if I had known." But even as he held me, even as he assured me that Jessica's words were meaningless, that she would face consequences for her actions, I couldn't shake the devastation. It wasn't just about the dress anymore. Jessica had voiced every insecurity I'd ever had about being adopted, every worry about not belonging, not being real family. She had taken those vulnerabilities and weaponized them on what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. My phone rang. It was my Aunt Lisa calling from the road. "Honey, I've got your mom's dress and I'm driving as fast as legally possible. I should be there in about an hour and a half. But listen, I stopped at that little bridal shop in Olympia on my way, and they had something that might work. I bought it just in case. It's not exactly your style, but it's white, it's pretty, and it's roughly your size." Hope flickered again. An hour and a half would put us close to ceremony time, but it might be manageable. We could delay the start slightly if needed. Michael took charge of the situation with impressive calm for someone who had just discovered his sister's betrayal. He called his parents to explain what had happened, asked them to handle informing the other family members about Jessica's banishment from the ceremony, and coordinated with the wedding planner to potentially adjust our timeline. His parents were horrified when they learned what Jessica had done. His mother called me personally to apologize on behalf of the family and to assure me that Jessica's views were not shared by anyone else. "Sarah, you are our daughter in every way that matters," Linda said through tears. "What Jessica did is unforgivable, and we will make sure she faces appropriate consequences." Meanwhile, Rachel had taken on the task of doing damage control with our wedding party and close family members. She explained that we were having a minor wardrobe situation that might delay the ceremony slightly, but that everything was being handled. As we waited for my aunt to arrive, I found myself thinking about Jessica's words. The cruel things she had said about adoption, about unknown genetics, about not being real family. I realized that her prejudice wasn't just directed at me. It was an insult to every adoptive family, every child who found love in non-traditional ways. Every person who understood that family is built on love, not biology. When my Aunt Lisa finally arrived, she burst through the door carrying 2 garment bags and a look of determination. "Okay, let's see what we're working with," she announced, immediately taking charge of the situation. The first dress from a small bridal shop was simple but elegant, a classic sheath style in ivory silk with minimal embellishment. It wasn't the romantic flowing gown I had originally chosen, but it was beautiful in its simplicity. My mother's vintage dress was also lovely, a 1980s style with puffy sleeves and intricate beadwork, but it was definitely of its era and not quite right for our outdoor mountain setting. I tried on the simple sheath dress, and while it needed some minor adjustments, a few safety pins here and there, a quick hem with fabric tape, it fit reasonably well and looked appropriate for our venue. As my mother and Rachel worked on the quick alterations, I looked at myself in the mirror. The dress was beautiful, but I felt a profound sadness. This wasn't how I had imagined getting ready for my wedding. Instead of excitement and joy, I felt hurt and betrayal. Jessica had managed to cast a shadow over what should have been a perfect day. Michael knocked on the door. "Can I come in for just a minute?" he asked. "I know it's bad luck to see the bride, but I need to talk to you." He entered and saw me in the replacement dress. His expression was soft and sad. "You look beautiful," he said. "But I can see in your eyes that this isn't how you wanted this to go." I nodded, trying not to cry again and ruin my makeup. I just keep thinking about what she said. About not being real family. About unknown genetics. What if other people think the same way? Michael took my hands in his. "Sarah, look at me. You are my family. You have been since the day I met you. Not because of where you came from, but because of who you are. Because of your kind heart, your incredible talent, your way of making everyone around you feel special." Jessica's words say everything about her character and nothing about yours. He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. "I've been thinking about what she said about our future children, about genetics and bloodlines and all that garbage. You want to know what I think about genetics? I think you inherited compassion from parents who chose to love a child who wasn't biologically theirs. I think you inherited strength from people who built their family through love rather than chance. Those are the kinds of traits I want our children to have." His words helped heal some of the hurt Jessica had inflicted, but I could tell this was going to be something I would need to process long after our wedding day was over. The ceremony was delayed by 30 minutes, but most guests didn't seem to mind. The autumn afternoon was beautiful, and the delay gave people more time to mingle and enjoy the mountain setting. Michael's parents had discreetly explained the situation to close family members, and I was touched by the outpouring of support. As I walked down the aisle with my father, I saw Michael waiting at the altar, his eyes bright with love and determination. Despite everything that had happened, despite Jessica's cruelty and the dress disaster, this moment was still perfect. This was still the beginning of our life together. Our ceremony was beautiful. The officiant, a family friend who had known Michael, since childhood, spoke about how families are formed in many different ways, but that love is the common thread that binds them together. It felt like he was speaking directly to the events of the day, offering healing words without dwelling on the negativity. When we exchanged vows, Michael added something that wasn't in our rehearsed version. I promise to always defend our family, in whatever form it takes, against anyone who questions our love or our commitment to each other. The reception was held in a rustic barn on the same property, decorated with autumn flowers and twinkling lights. Despite the earlier drama, the celebration was joyful and full of love. Our friends and family danced, laughed, and toasted our happiness. Jessica's absence was noted but not discussed. It was as if we had all collectively decided not to let her poison our joy any further. During the father-daughter dance, my dad whispered in my ear, "I'm sorry about what happened today, sweetheart, but I want you to know that you have always been our miracle, our chosen daughter, and no one can ever take that away from you." Later, as Michael and I had our first dance as husband and wife, he said, "I keep thinking about something. Jessica, destroyed your original dress, but look around this room. Look at all these people celebrating us, supporting us, loving us. She couldn't destroy what really matters." The next morning, as we prepared to leave for our honeymoon in Italy, we learned more about the fallout from Jessica's actions. Michael's parents had called her and David to inform them that they were no longer welcome at family gatherings, until Jessica made a genuine apology and sought counseling for her prejudiced views. Tyler and Emma would still be included in family activities, but Jessica and David were effectively on probation. David, who had apparently been unaware of the extent of his wife's prejudice, was reportedly shocked and angry when he learned what she had done. Several family members told us later that he had confronted Jessica about her behavior and demanded she get professional help. Thomas, Michael's younger brother, called to apologize for his sister's actions and to assure us of his support. "What Jessica did was inexcusable," he said. "But I want you to know that not everyone in this family thinks the way she does. You're my sister-in-law, and I'm proud to have you in the family." During our honeymoon, I found myself thinking a lot about identity, family, and belonging. Jessica's attack had forced me to confront some deep questions about what it means to be adopted, what family really is, and how to handle people who can't see past biology to understand love. I realized that while Jessica's words had hurt, they had also revealed something important: the strength of my real family, both my adoptive parents and Michael's parents, who had rallied around us. They had shown me what unconditional love and acceptance actually look like. When we returned from our honeymoon, we learned that Jessica had been struggling with the consequences of her actions. Several family members had expressed their disappointment in her behavior, and she was reportedly seeing a therapist at David's insistence. However, she had not yet reached out to apologize or even acknowledge the full extent of what she had done. Michael and I made the decision to focus on our new marriage and our future, rather than waiting for Jessica to have some kind of enlightenment. We sent thank you notes to everyone who had supported us on our wedding day, had our professional photos taken, and I looked beautiful in that simple replacement dress, and began building our life together. 6 months after our wedding, Jessica finally reached out. She sent a long email acknowledging that her behavior had been wrong and hurtful, and expressing a desire to make amends. The apology seemed genuine, and she mentioned that therapy had helped her recognize some of her prejudiced thinking patterns. However, her email also included several buts and justifications that suggested she still didn't fully understand the impact of her actions. She seemed to view the dress destruction as a momentary lapse in judgment rather than the culmination of years of prejudiced thinking and subtle cruelty. Michael and I discussed how to respond. We decided to acknowledge her apology but make it clear that rebuilding trust would require consistent, changed behavior over time, not just words. We also established clear boundaries about future interactions. "I appreciate your apology," I wrote back, "but I need you to understand that what you did wasn't just about a dress. You attacked my very identity and belonging in this family. Healing from that will take time, and it will require you to demonstrate through your actions that you truly understand why your behavior was wrong." A year later, Jessica's behavior had shown some improvement, though our relationship remained distant and cautious. She attended Michael's birthday party and was polite to me, even complimenting a photo I had taken. It wasn't warmth, but it wasn't hostility either. Tyler and Emma, now 9 and 7, had apparently asked their parents why Aunt Sarah wasn't in some of the family photos from before the wedding. David had explained to them, in age-appropriate terms, that their mother had said some unkind things that hurt people's feelings, and that sometimes adults need to learn better ways to treat family members. The children seemed to accept this explanation, and continued to interact normally with Michael and me at family gatherings. The most meaningful moment came at Christmas dinner 2 years after our wedding. Tyler was drawing pictures of the family gathering, and without prompting, he included me in his drawing and labeled it Uncle Michael's Family. When Jessica saw the drawing, I watched her face carefully. Instead of the subtle disapproval I might have expected from the old Jessica, she nodded and told Tyler it was a beautiful picture. It was a small moment, but it felt significant. Perhaps she was finally beginning to understand what family really means. As Michael and I started trying to have children of our own, I found myself thinking about Jessica's comments about genetics and bloodlines. We had decided we wanted to be open to both biological children and adoption, viewing both as equal paths to building our family. When we shared this decision with Michael's parents, they were completely supportive and excited about the possibility of more grandchildren, however they might come to us. Now, 3 years after that terrible wedding day, I can say that while Jessica's actions caused profound hurt, they also led to some important revelations. They showed me the strength of my real support system, helped Michael understand the depth of his sister's prejudice so he could address it properly, and forced our entire family to have important conversations about acceptance and love. My marriage to Michael is stronger than ever. We've learned to navigate family conflicts together, to support each other through difficult times, and to build our own traditions and values. The crisis on our wedding day, while painful, showed us both what we're capable of when we face challenges. As a team, I still have the photographs from our wedding day, and when I look at them now, I see something I couldn't see then. Yes, I'm wearing a different dress than the one I had planned to wear. But I'm also surrounded by people who love me unconditionally, who stood by me when someone tried to make me feel like I didn't belong. The joy on everyone's faces, the love. In Michael's eyes, the proud expressions of our parents. None of that was diminished by Jessica's actions. In fact, in some ways, the crisis revealed the true depth of our family's love and commitment to each other. It showed me that belonging isn't about sharing DNA or meeting someone else's narrow definition of family. Belonging is about being chosen, being loved, being defended, and being valued for who you are. The replacement dress I wore on my wedding day now hangs in our closet next to Michael's tuxedo. Sometimes I look at it and remember not the morning of crisis and tears, but the afternoon of triumph and celebration that followed. It reminds me that even when people try to destroy something beautiful, love has a way of creating something new and meaningful from the wreckage. Jessica's attempt to ruin my wedding day ultimately failed because she misunderstood what makes a wedding and a marriage beautiful. It's not about the perfect dress or the flawless execution of every detail. It's about two people choosing each other and being surrounded by people who support that choice. In that regard, our wedding was absolutely perfect. Have you ever had to deal with family members who couldn't accept your choices or your background? How did you handle it? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Sometimes sharing our experiences helps others feel less alone in their struggles. And if this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more stories about overcoming family drama and building strong relationships based on love and respect, rather than biology or social expectations. Thank you for listening, and remember, family isn't just about who you're related to, it's about who shows up for you when it matters most.